everybody. Welcome to Wednesday night, our live Q&A. We have our same cast of characters here. Myself, we have Stephanie, Blake, Ashley, and Jackie.
You're not very loud.
I'm not very loud. How about now?
No.
No?
Talk a little more.
No? Not loud?
That's better.
That's better.
Yeah, you sounded like you're far away.
Yeah, I just got to put the mic up here, I guess.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone's doing well this evening. Sorry about Facebook.
Yeah.
They're doing all kinds of stuff that we can't control. We're trying to find the workaround. Obviously, tonight it didn't work, so we'll keep trying. We won't give up, but unfortunately, it is what it is right now. Facebook is not playing nicely with third parties.
I just put it on the Facebook that if anybody wants to join us to come on to YouTube. And,
doesn't matter. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
Okay. Whatever.
Whatever.
Well, anyways, welcome everyone. We're here to answer your questions. And I appreciate everybody that comes on with us to do this. We welcome everybody. I'm glad to have you all here. I'm going to run into the disclosure real quick and then talk a second, and then we'll get into the questions because we seem to have quite a few tonight already.
First of all, how about my background, huh?
That is a great background. That's pretty awesome. I think we've got to get Ashley one because I really kind of like it.
I think we need to get Ashley one, but she'll put like Army something up there.
Yeah, that's okay. We just keep the green screen green.
Right, just keep it green. Just put a blanket up there.
It's not easy being green.
It's not.
No.
All right,
but
let me switch over to
the disclosure.
Yeah.
I can just read it if you don't want. Oh, you got it? Okay. All right. So real quick, guys. VA claims veterans helping veterans is not accredited with agent. We're not VSOs, attorneys, or entities recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we're not affiliated with the VA anyway. We do not assist veterans with the preparation, presentation, and prosecution of the VA disability claims for VA benefits. This Q&A is solely for guidance purposes and should not be considered medical or legal advice. We are basically here, guys, to help you to the best of our abilities to answer your questions. Now, if you can put us all back on, Chris, that would be great. If we cannot answer your question, guys, and it's going to take longer tonight, Chris will flash up from time to time the email address. You can go ahead and email us, redact your personal information, and we can try and help you after the live and get back to you with a more in-depth. We do that a lot with veterans. We appreciate everybody who donates to us. It helps us, it supports us with the channel. And with that being said,
hey, it worked.
Hey, it worked. So what were you able to do? Post it up there?
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Okay. So that being said, we're going to get right into the questions, and we'll go from. You guys are ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Let's go.
Ashley,
yes, ma'am.
This first one coming up, I think, is a 4-parter.
Yes.
So
Ashley,
she's already preloaded the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So
okay.
Just heads up there.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, I'm out of here. See you guys.
Okay.
Okay, so this first one's from Miss Sharon Graver. So after very positive CMP exam, stroke came back as deferred for further claim development. Did not get asked for further information. Could this be because they are still looking at all the residuals and so many different DBQs may be necessary? The original examiner said VA asked her if stroke was due to Agent Orange exposure. She said she was writing more likely than not caused by coronary artery disease, hypertension. and hopefully that would resolve it and would not need any further exams. Any thoughts on this and any experience of how long it could take to hear? It's been about 3 weeks now. Since decision letter stating deferred for stroke and connected for diabetes. Thanks for your help. This stroke happened 10 years ago, many residuals, and continued doctoring for no more.
Blake, you want to go, and then Jackie?
Okay, well, so my first question would be, is the coronary artery disease, diabetes is coronary artery disease, plain and simple. So if you have coronary artery disease and that's what they're blaming it on, and you don't have coronary artery disease as a secondary to your diabetes, you need to get that. More than likely, since the stroke has been, I think Stephanie said 10 years ago, they are going to rate you not necessarily on the stroke, but on all of the different residuals. And yes, there will need to be DBQs for each one of those conditions, and more than likely, at least one, maybe 2 or 3 exams, depending on if it affected your eyes, if it affected your cognition, if it affected movement or restricted movement. You may have to see a neurologist, maybe a psychiatrist, maybe an eye doctor for those. So that would be farmed out to different people. So the answer is yes, more than likely. That's why they've deferred the stroke, is that they want to look into all of the residuals that you've had, and if she's writing it, it's due to coronary artery disease. You need to, if you don't have a claim in for coronary artery disease, you're going to need to put one in for it.
Okay. Jackie, did you want to touch anything on the disability side for rating purposes?
I think because we talked about it earlier, Blake pretty much hit the nail on the head. There's no talking about the time frame. There's no time frame. It really depends. And, we know VA like kind of accepts that hypertension is a common residual of like or secondary condition to diabetes, but the coronary artery disease isn't as easy as like a jump as it would be for that. And I'm not saying it's hard. Like once you are diagnosed with hypertension, we all know coronary artery disease isn't a far jump. Additionally, if he was exposed to Agent Orange, which sounds like he was, as long as the heart disease is ischemic, that's a presumptive of Agent Orange. So basically, you're just going to have to wait. Nobody knows what's in the medical records, although it's favorable. Like, you want to be cautiously optimistic because, there could be something funky in the records that point to another etiology or another thing. So, good luck to you. Just be cautiously optimistic and patient.
Yeah, it's going to be a wait and see thing, but I would be more apt to lean towards it being favorable.
Okay. Well, hopefully, Sharon, that answers your questions. In the meantime, if you do have any more questions, feel free to always email us, and we'd be happy to help. All right. Next question.
All right, first of all, guys, we got a donation again from Peter.
Oh.
So thank you very much, Peter. We appreciate that very much. Like I said, we work off donations and all that, so this is great. We always appreciate a good donation.
Thank you, Peter. We do appreciate your support. He's
He's been very supportive. So
very supportive of us, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is from Tobin Whitman. VA recently reduced my CKD rating from 60% down to 30%. If 3 of my last results were in the 60% range, should they have lowered it? What's the best way to challenge, supplemental or a higher level review?
Is there another part to this?
There is. Also connected to, for tinnitus, also experiencing vertigo symptoms and migraines. Can those be secondary to tinnitus?
Well, as far as the first part, if it's already from 60 to 30, it sounds like the reduction's already been proposed and finalized. So if that's already happened, then you would have to basically, and Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, would basically have to start over again and just file for an increase to get it back up.
If if they're within 1 year of the appeal period, I think I would suggest doing a higher level review because you're basically alleging that the reduction wasn't warranted. Of course, it
Okay.
would have been easier to go ahead and request a hearing or submit that evidence while, before that reduction took place because they give you what, 60 days for a
Right.
proposal. I guess I would be wondering if you had your original letter, if you were being evaluated based on the new criteria or the old criteria, because on November 14th, 2021, the criteria for rating kidney disease changed. So you want to make sure that you really weren't reduced in error, because a change in the rating schedule isn't sufficient to lower a veteran. You kind of get grandfathered in under it. So if you have those last readings for your blood work on the blood work, and then you can prove it, then you can submit that. But really they should have that. I think the higher
Well,
level would be best.
Well,
part of
my
the
question,
question was that he had 3 out of 6 um, lab results were within the 60% range.
It's
right,
Now, my question
whatever
is,
the reading is.
huh?
It's whatever the predominant reading is.
okay,
But
so if his last
if
3
he's
were
already
all
been
normal,
reduced, he's saying he went from 60 to 30. So it sounds like one, the 30 days obviously lapsed to request a hearing. Two, the 60 days has lapsed to provide the evidence. So it sounds like he's already been reduced. He says the VA recently reduced him. So to me,
Right.
it
So
sounds like
after 1 year, you can submit the higher level
correct. No,
review.
no, no, I understand that. But I didn't know if he was confusing it, if he's still in the reduction proposal or if it's been reduced. And that was why I asked that question. So, and then as far as the tinnitus and the vertigo filing secondary, what was that other part of the secondary? He says he's rated for tinnitus.
migraines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, again, you can file you can file any claim you want. It's just, do you have the evidence to support it? I mean, migraines have been secondary to tinnitus. There has been veterans that have gotten it, but you have to prove as the veteran have the ability to prove the causation that your migraines are being caused by your tinnitus. Now, I'm not familiar, Jackie, when it comes to the rating with the tinnitus and the vertigo and all that. Vertigo could be separate, correct?
Vertigo can be separate.
Okay. So it is possible. It could be
If
rated.
there's hearing loss, vertigo, and tinnitus, those make up the triad for Meniere's. Jackie, would the Meniere's rating be higher than his tinnitus, than the 10% tinnitus?
Well, yeah.
So if he's got a hearing loss of any sort, particularly in that ear with tinnitus, he should talk to his physician about. They should talk to their physician about possibility of Meniere's, and if get that diagnosed, that should be filed separately.
Right.
He'll
But
lose the 10% for tinnitus, but gain whatever Meniere's gives him.
But it also depends on what the physician diagnosed with. That's what's going to dictate how it's evaluated. If
Right.
it doesn't matter what the veteran wants, if they meet the criteria and they have the diagnosis of Meniere's, that's how they're evaluated. If they're separate and distinct, or there's different onsets or different etiologies, it all depends. It's really all speculative without seeing medical records.
But basically, for Tobin, and to move on, that is basically what just to recap what Jackie said about the CKD is, you're within the 1 year, you can appeal it. HLR sounds like the way to go. If you have the evidence to support the secondaries to the tinnitus, then go ahead and file it, such as the migraines and the vertigo. But keep in mind, like Jackie, and we
Well,
said,
let me backtrack real quick. If the veteran was seen by the VA and the VA or the private records were already submitted from the prior to that rating decision, lower in it, then I would go with the higher level review. If the VA doesn't have the records or they're receiving outside treatment and VA never got those records and you have to submit new evidence, you're going to have to go with the supplemental claim because
Okay.
the higher level reviews, they can only go on the evidence of record from the
Record.
date of the rating decision. So as long as VA supposedly had all that stuff, then you're good. Do the higher level
Right.
review. But if you have to submit it, do the supplemental.
Right. Agree. Okay. All right. I hope that helped, Tobin. All right. Nice question, Chris.
Okay, this next one's from Rich Rod, 1678. Does the VA have to take him into consideration the type of duty station uses served in and take into the account environmental exposures and acoustic exposures? U.S. Navy work, some shipyard in Europe.
There's a two-parter to this. Three-parter.
Mm-hmm. Apply for AA. The VA said I didn't meet the criteria and read me the whole regulation, but didn't explain how I didn't meet the criteria. This is what they said in the favorable finding. FF identified in this decision you require aid and attendance. Doctor, it reports your symptoms of your service-connected condition impairs your functioning and self-care and requires assistance.
Can we see the pop-ups for the questions since it's four-part? It's four different areas and it's hard to keep it straight. Yes. Okay. So I'll take the first one, Steph. So that is essentially the basis of the PACT Act. They're taking into account occupational, environmental hazards, including hearing, noise hazards. So yes, they take that into account, but I mean the duty station. So like obviously certain exposures are going to be conceded if you're stationed at Al Assad, Iraq. Now, if you're stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, then those same exposures wouldn't necessarily apply. So if you're going to blame exposures on the duty station, you should probably go ahead and identify those and why you think, because for the most part, it's always going to be those occupational and then environmental, environmental hazards that VA concedes. So, like, if you think you're like on, how was that Army base, Fort McClellan? So, part of the PACT Act is they're investigating if more people should be eligible for like Agent Orange because they store it like allegedly in barrels and stuff. So they're investigating that. But at the current time, VA doesn't concede exposure. So it really depends. If you're going to do something really specific based on where you were stationed, you should volunteer that information to VA.
Hold on a second. I want to say something here real quick. To Michael Pittman, if you are listening to me right now, I'm trying not to blow a gasket here. We come on here out of our own free will, time, and energy to help veterans such as yourself to answer your questions. So do not get upset with us if we have not answered your question yet. We will answer your question. And do not come at this ever to me like this and my team, because now I'm getting pissed. Everybody has a question. Everybody's question will get answered. So tone it down, sit back, your question will get answered. I'm done.
Okay, Corporal Ohm Duty has got a lot of stuff going on here. So
right,
we got a four-parter coming up, and then there might be one here at the bottom that he's adding on. So it might be a five-parter.
I mean, basically, I've read it. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but
well, we didn't finish up on Rich Rod. He asked
No.
about
we
the
only
aid and
got
aid and
Sorry.
attendance. It all depends on what you applied for aid and attendance for as to whether or not you're going to qualify for the VA, right, Jackie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's different levels of aid and attendance for VA purposes. So, I mean, it's possible that you get aid and attendance out in the community and whatnot, and the threshold is lower, but you don't quite meet that VA criteria for it. Because it can be dependent on disabilities. It can be at like SMCS, SMCL, or if you have just a million different things going on, could even be as then we get higher into like the R's and whatnot, but that is so uncommon.
The login is you.
If you want to email your decision letter, we can take a look at it, and
That's probably the best.
yeah, because it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, and that way we can see it. I mean, I guess I'm just curious because in the favorable findings, always like they put that in now in the decision in all decision letters, which sometimes most of the times confuses veterans because they see favorable findings and they automatically assume, well, wait a minute, I had a favorable finding. Why didn't I get rated?
No, it's like my biggest pet. It's like I think favorable findings other than sleep apnea are my biggest pet peeve because they are confusing. But you have to remember for everything that you're claiming, there's certain criteria that it must meet. Like for direct service connection, it has to be like there has to be an event in service, a nexus, and a current disability, right? So the favorable findings will mirror what elements of that you meet. So no matter what you're claiming, how you're claiming it, and it's different. You can have 6 different favorable findings and still be denied for something. So I get they're confusing, but we'll try to make heads and tails of it.
But yeah, so if you want, just go ahead and send it over to us, and we'll be happy. Again, redact your personal information. The email has been flashed up, but Chris, if you can put it up one more time, that would be great for the email. And like I said, we'll get to everybody's questions tonight. We just got started. It's just don't be demanding. You're you picked the wrong night to be demanding.
We're doing it for free.
Yeah, we are here to help everybody.
All right. So is it Corporal Home Duties time?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'm out.
Okay, so I got a waiver for ADHD to get into the Marine Corps. Applied for disability and got rated at 70% for GAD, but didn't talk about anything traumatic. After going to an intensive treatment program for PTSD, I learned that I'm also autistic. I know I should be rated higher at 100%, but don't know what to do since I got denied for PTSD. Nobody even knew I was autistic, I guess. I mean, I don't guess MEPS never found it, or medical, or my records before the military.
Okay, so first of all, Corporal OHM duty, you were already rated for mental health at 70%. So, and that's for general anxiety disorder, GAD. It's irrelevant that you're not rated for PTSD. You're rated for a mental health. You can be rated for one primary mental health disability and have many other symptoms other than an eating disorder at this very moment. So everything that happened in the past, I don't know about MEPS and waivers and all, is irrelevant. You are rated for 70. What you're saying is that if you feel you should be 100%, we all feel those feelings, right? You have to prove to the VA that you meet the 100% requirement, which is the highest mental health rating, that you are total in both social and occupational impairments. So if you're at 70 and you filed for an increase and you're not getting it, that means the VA is telling you you don't meet that next higher requirement.
Right.
But I just put this video out and I shared it with Chris. If you can drop it in the link, I literally just put a video out about veterans filing for mental health when they're already rated for mental health. You're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing other veterans a disservice because you're already rated. All you need to do is file an increase. So with that being said, does anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah, I just want to back up what Stephanie said. The VA does not rate on what you know, what you feel, or what you think. They only rate on documented facts. So if all the symptoms are not in your record at some point or somewhere, then they don't have anything to rate you off of other than you should believe it because I told you so.
And
And they're not going to do that.
Regardless if they caught autism, just to throw it out there, prior to service or not, very rare, almost like hitting the lottery exemptions, may they even consider doing it. It's not something that can be service connected because it's considered something that you're born with, and VA doesn't do congenital disorders. So if I were you,
Yeah.
I would just keep that information to my damn self, to be honest. And
and
a 70% for a mental health rating is actually very good. It is difficult to get the 100% for a reason. You know, people poke the bear so many times and then they don't like the results. So just throwing it out there, like 70%
right.
is an excellent rating, and you wouldn't want to jeopardize that.
Well, and Corporal, so I understand you're saying you haven't done anything with it, but I'm trying to get your head wrapped around that you don't need to worry about, like what Jackie's saying, autism, don't poke the bill. You don't need to worry about anything that happened prior. You are rated at 70% right now, which is a pretty significantly high rating for mental health. And in order, like I said, to get to 100, you have to meet those requirements. And those requirements are pretty high up there for 100%.
Yeah,
So
I
at the end
dropped
of
a
the day,
link.
it's your, huh?
I dropped the link in your video into the chat for YouTube.
Chris, I said
And
it in the chat. You know, you're still showing up as that full time.
You're showing up as somebody else. Yeah,
Yeah, I
he
know.
he didn't log in
I
correctly.
got to log in as Stephanie.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you do.
Yeah, but it says
the
I got
one
the
thing
little
about the
wrench, so it means I'm
autism,
an admin.
when Colonel OMH or OHM duty, when you say that you guess MEPS didn't find it or the medical never found it, those are not screenings that they do in MEPS. They don't do screen autism. And I'll give you an example. The actor Bill Murray was diagnosed with autism about 10 years ago. Nobody would have known he had it until he went and saw someone about it.
But you know what? Knowing that you have autism and then
Yeah.
not disclosing it to the military before you
Right.
enlist, that's fraud.
Correct.
Just why?
So
Yeah, he wasn't. It doesn't look like he was diagnosed before.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
said he
Before
wasn't
he went
aware.
in the military, but
right, but at the end of the day, and we can move on from this, is you're already rated for mental health, Corporal OHM duty. So stop worrying about ADHD, stop worrying about autism. You're rated. If you think that you need to file for an increase because your mental health has gotten worse from your 70% rating, then file for it. But keep in mind, this does have backfired on veterans. While you could get the 100% or stay at 70, you could very well be proposed a reduction. It does happen. So just make sure about that, but get your mind out of the previous autism, ADHD. That's all we're trying to say.
I'm gonna throw it out there too. ADHD is not considered like something that you just develop unless like you have like maybe like something crazy like a TBI or whatnot. So VA doesn't really
well, he says
recognize.
he got a waiver for it so he could join. So he was diagnosed with the
Oh, well,
ADHD
that's
prior
different then.
to.
Many guys and gals have waivers going in. That's fine. But again, all of that's irrelevant. You're 70%.
True.
But that's it. You're already rated. You don't need to worry about getting PTSD rated. You're rated for 70% mental health. And please watch my video that Chris dropped in there, because we literally just put that out a few weeks ago on this, and I had some great help to create this video. It's very informative, and it will really help you understand, because there's so many veterans that are filing mistakes like this. And Chris, did you see the other donation from
Yeah,
Rich Ron?
right here for
Okay.
Richard 1678. Thank you very much. We appreciate any help we can get.
We do.
Very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
We do appreciate it. Okay. Next question.
All right, let me get out.
I think it's LG's.
Okay.
Okay, so this is from LG. Hey, gang, asking for a friend. He has 70% from mental health and wondering could he claim his migraines, headaches, and IBS secondary. Thank you.
To his, well, I mean, again, we're a veteran. I mean, you can claim anything you want all day long. The question is, do you have, excuse me, the evidence to support it? So for this veteran, if he's already rated for mental health and he's saying his mental health is causing his migraines, headaches, does he have the causation? And I'm going to let Blake answer about the medical there as well. Same goes with IBS. What's the correlation? Not, causation. What's the correlation with IBS?
There are plenty of studies out there that show correlation. People, X number of people have mental health problems, and a certain percentage of those have IBS. What you have to do is prove that you are one of those, and you need to do that by discussing it with your provider, asking your provider if they feel or believe that your IBS is aggravated or caused by your mental health issues. Then they need to document that in your record, and then you can claim it secondary. That is your nexus for it. But they also need to say why. So let's take general anxiety disorder and panic attacks. If every time you have a panic attack, you have to run to the bathroom because you have diarrhea, that shows both correlation and causation. But if you're just going from day to day to day, and you have diarrhea every day, but your mental health doesn't affect you in that way, that on those days, they may not be connected. So you need to talk to your provider.
What do you think, Jackie, on the IBS? Like, I mean, I guess the stress.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies out there that show it.
There's a ton of medical literature out there, but as we continuously say, correlation is not causation. So everything has to be really facts specific, and it's better if you can validate your argument with like actual objective evidence and not just your subjective complaints.
Right.
Additionally, when these medical opinions are asked, I mean, nobody really gives a negative medical opinion when you pay for it, right? But it's an opinion. So, you have some doctors who think that this may cause this. You have other doctors who think it's more likely that this causes this. So that's the thing. People get mad all the time. Oh, it's not fair. But you know what? They're opinions, and we all know opinions are like what?
Right.
Well,
and
but we're doctors, and we're always right.
Well,
you know what? I'm the Queen of England, and I'm always right.
She's dead. There is no queen right now.
Well, remember we put there's a three. I'm frozen. There's a 3-part Nexus video out on our YouTube. I highly suggest, LG, you have your friend watch, or anybody else. Blake had me put it together. Blake put a huge post out in the group about this last year, about Nexus. Doesn't have to be a letter. It can simply be medical notes within your medical records. And we also break down about the difference of correlation, causation, and aggravation. So I would highly suggest watching that 3-part series. It really goes in depth about that, because there's so much misconception about a nexus. And this group here, us, we I can't tell you how many nexus letters come through emails for us to review from the same companies that are copied and paste. It's mind blowing. And then the thousands of dollars veterans are paying for them.
Thousands of
Right.
dollars for 13 pages of crap, like
Yeah.
nothing.
Mhm.
Says nothing
And
substantial. Doesn't
tying your migraines
to
to it.
records or anything.
Yeah.
The other thing about tying migraines to your mental health is, again, one of those things with migraines is they're big on migraine logs.
Yeah.
And what makes it better, what makes it worse, part of your log needs to say had panic attack, or
Right.
whatever your mental health issues are. You need to say how they were affecting you before and during their migraine.
Right. But to close this up and move on, because we got a ton of questions, LG, just like I said, have them watch that video. To have them put an intent to file in right now, just to save the date and gather the information that they need for the claims that they plan to submit, and gather the evidence and go from there. So, all right. With that being said, let's move on to the next question.
Okay, this next one's from
Nope.
Michael Pittman.
Skip.
Okay, CRTW08. If I have an intent to claim on file and planned on turning in my tinnitus claim, can I file also with that my PTSD due to MST claim?
Mhm.
If so, should it be separate support forms and separate claim forms?
No, the intent to file is your, oh,
Forms, or should the support forms be the only separate document but turned in at the same time to get the intent to file date?
so the ITF is in place for you to file all your claims. So you should be filing all your claims at once under that intent to file, to include your tinnitus, to include your mental health. Yes, you should be filling out the VA 21-0781 alpha for MST, and putting it in great detail. Myself and Ashley are MST survivors. So if you do have any personal questions that you want off the live, feel free to always email us, and I can always get with Ashley, and we can talk to you further about it. But you're not filing separate claims. That ITF is there so that you can file all the claims under it. So once you use that ITF, it's gone. So make sure you file any and all claims under the ITF.
Or
I want
file
to
a new
clarify that
ITF
real
the
quick.
next day.
So if you are filing two different forms, so let's say you've claimed PTSD or mental health before, you would have to file, if you're outside your appeal period, you have to file a supplemental claim. And then you want to file a new claim for tinnitus, right? You have to do that in a 526EZ. You need to make sure that VA receives those claims forms on the same day, because once you submit a claims form, the ITF is gone. All right. So if you file a claim and then another claim a week later, you're not going to get the ITF for that second claim. It eats it up. If you submit those forms on the same day, they both can have the ITF. And it's worth noting that ITFs don't apply to higher level reviews or board appeals.
Right. And I think this is all new claims for this person. I don't, from what I'm
But it's
understanding.
worth saying while we're on the
Right.
topic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Blake, did you have anything?
Just if they are going to file them at separate times, file the PTSD first. It's got a higher rating. It'll go back. If you file your intent to your tinnitus, you're going to get 10%, and if you file the PTSD the next day, you're not going to get any back pay on that. Back to the intent date.
Right. Okay. Next question.
Okay, this next one's from Nicole. Nicole? That's all? If I submitted for a lumbosacral sprain increase, do I need to do another claim for secondary radiculopathy?
Isn't radiculopathy automatically in
Mine was.
EBQ, if I remember correctly.
It is. So
Yeah.
if you claim it, they'll order it. But yeah, on the back and the neck DBQs, radiculopathy is automatically addressed on those, whether you have it or not. They're going to evaluate for it. So you don't specifically have to claim it, but you want to give VA enough information that you're not opening yourself up to be overlooked or something be missed. So if you specifically claim it, right, then you're already asserting that you have the condition. Um, if you already filed it and you just filed the back, that's fine. Like for neck and back, they're automatically looking for radiculopathy.
That's what I thought too. So I guess so. The answer is no. You don't need to file a secondary.
But I'd
But
recommend you do
what?
if you
Huh?
have
Well, I thought when you filed the claim for the lower back, would you include it at the same time?
If
Like,
you have the condition, you should file for it. So if you claim,
okay.
yeah, if you claim your back and then you're like, oh, I have sciatic in my right leg, then you should claim it.
Yeah.
But they're going to evaluate. Well, they're going to examine you to see if you have it or not, regardless if you claim it or not.
And some examiners are pretty good at it. Like the veteran actually doesn't realize when they go in for their lower back, and they're like, I've seen this in our group this last week of radiculopathy. They're like, the examiner noted this, this, and this, and added it, and so now all of a sudden the rater has added all and they're all upset. I'm like, well, they actually did their job.
Yeah,
So
that's what
that's
they
actually a
did
good
with
thing for
mine.
you. And the rater's doing something by looking at what the examiner has put out there. So like Jackie said, Nicole, just go ahead and file for the lower back and file for the radiculopathy and provide the evidence to support the
Well,
claim.
there's actually conditions that raters, when they're evaluating the veterans, that they're required to consider. So, like, if you're
Right.
service connected for your knee and you've had surgery, guess what? They're looking
Right.
for a scar like that. It's an error if the rater doesn't catch that. Same thing with the radiculopathy or some other
Right.
conditions, but it's something that they're definitely actively looking for.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
All right, guys, we're 45 minutes in. We got 41 people, so we got a lot of questions. We just want to say thank you, everybody. You got to be patient. Some of these questions take a while.
Yeah.
You can also join our Facebook group. A lot of good information Stephanie puts on there. Obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put out a lot of good videos. And if you don't want to wait around and we don't get to your question, you can email us. All right.
Yes.
So we try to get to everyone's question, but some take longer than others, obviously. So if you don't get to your question or you don't want to wait around, just email us and we'll get back to you.
And we're getting all this love. This is awesome.
We're getting a lot of love today. That's awesome. So, all right,
All right,
that's
let's
enough for
roll.
me. I'm going to get out of here again.
Okay. And thanks
Ashley,
for all
looks
the
like you got a
donations.
two-parter.
Yes. All right.
Okay, this next one's from Gerda Renee Davis. My husband was hospitalized in Germany and Walter Reed for 6 months. We filed PTSD and mental, but they were unable to find his record.
Okay.
How do we go about? He was diagnosed for PTSD and MST at the VA hospital and has been treated. How do we go about getting this rated if medical records are lost?
Well, first of all, PTSD due to MST, there has to be some type of, well, first of all, let me stop. Those are handled by special claims when it comes to an MST, for one.
Claims processors.
Huh?
Claims processors, they're not special, like
Okay.
they're handled by specially trained processors.
But they go to a specific RO, and I think it's Puerto Rico, correct?
It's San Juan for the initial or supplemental, but the appeals will go to a DROC, which is the
Okay.
Decision Review Operations Center.
Okay. So for an for again MST claim, you need to have the proper form filled out. You need to have the clear markers. If it was never reported in service, you've got to have clear markers. You've got to have the stressor that's in service that is associated to the MST. So it sounds like your husband was diagnosed for PTSD at the VA, which is the current diagnosis, but it sounds like doesn't have the in service to, I don't know why are the fireworks in me it's just so distracting. I just totally lost my train of thought. It sounds like your husband's got the current PTSD diagnosis, but doesn't have the in service to connect. So there's something missing there in regards to the MST, because that's kind of what I'm picking up. What about anybody else?
Well, the one thing, PTSD and MST, the VA hospital, and he was in the VA hospital and has been treated.
Right.
Well, there should be treatment records from the VA, and that can within those records can have some way of connecting him to, if they say this is due to service. Those records should also reflect somewhere in that record his history of treatment in Germany and Walter Reed.
Right.
So even if it's just his report to that examiner, that would be in the record and could satisfy a service connection. Correct, Jackie?
No.
You
No,
don't
there has to
think
be
so?
credible supporting evidence of an event in service. So whether that be generally
Right.
what you'll hear Stephanie talk about a lot is markers. So there has to be like something in service, a buddy statement that somebody talked to somebody or whatever. But
Clinic.
no, treatment records are not the
Right.
only thing sufficient. They, I
True
mean,
markers are things like going to the clinic after an assault, pregnancy test, asking to be transferred from your duty station.
anything, bad performance
Right.
evaluations. It
But
really could be
but
anything. There could be something that
shouldn't
is
all
outside
that
for the behavior for the people. But the main thing is there still has to be credible supporting evidence that it happened in service. So, like I said, there has to be markers or buddy states, something. But just VA
okay?
treatment after you get out isn't going to fly for a regular
No,
MS.
but the VA has given him a diagnosis. That diagnosis isn't because he walked in there and said, "I've got PTSD." They do when they do their workup, just like anybody who had a MST 20 years ago, didn't talk to anybody, didn't say anything, and you go in now. Well, you talk to you talk to your provider, and you discuss it with your provider, and at some point it may take the
I'm
first
not
visit, it
saying
may
they
be
can't count the VA treatments as evidence. I'm saying for credible supporting evidence to prove that MST happened, there has to be markers or buddy statements or something from in service. And VA treatment records do not. They can be used to support the claim, but they are not evidence, credible evidence of something happening in
It's
service. Because
part
there
of
has
it. And the CMP examiner has to confirm and concede the diagnosis as well. So just
true,
because
and
the
no,
VA, huh?
PTSD, MST claims are also evaluated by specific examiners who have the specialty training. Additionally, when they do MST claims, it's a two-part opinion. It's not just do you have PTSD to this MST? It's if based on the evidence, and of course, if this was reported or there's a record of it happening in service, none of this applies because there's objective evidence
right.
that these
Right.
happen in service and they
Well,
can
and
deal with it. But
the other
for the thing
question I would
is
have,
that the markers substantiate that perhaps the MST happened. They're the credible evidence that the MST happened, and then it's does the veteran have PTSD as a result of the MST? It's two completely different things. It's unlike any other PTSD type of
the
claim.
the other part of her question I would like to address is, she starts out with, my husband was hospitalized in Germany and Walter Reed for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Months.
Right.
I find it hard to believe that the military has no record of either one of those hospitalizations.
But she also didn't say that he was hospitalized solely for PTSD treatment. So
True. But still, one avenue for you is, instead of going to the military asking for the records, check with call Walter Reed's medical records and see if they can, and request it. Send a medical record request to the hospital. It may not. It may have gotten lost between hospital and service record.
And
Yeah,
if
you can
just
note that VA will request those records too. If he say he got treatment in Germany and Walter Reed, they'll actually write the hospital to attempt to get those records. But unfortunately, we know medical records aren't kept
right.
forever. They weren't associated with the
Yeah,
actual.
that's also a factor. How long? Because medical records are only required in the civilian world to be kept for 7 years.
So let's wrap this up because we've got a lot of questions.
I'd like to just say one more thing, Steph. So if you guys can't have the records and VA says they can't find them, if you're appealing this and you're claiming it and stuff, he should definitely write a statement that he received treatment at this and such a place for this because of this, and this is he was here and the dates and everything, because at least they can kind of corroborate it with his chronological like duty list and stuff, and they can kind of concede but not concede. They can say a lot of this lines up with it, because they can't punish a veteran because they don't have the service treatment records. We see that with the big fire that took out a lot of the Army's records. So
So to
just
wrap this up,
annotate.
we have got to get going. She specifically asked, how do we go about getting this rated if medical records are lost? Basically, Gerda, file the claim, do what Jackie said about the statement and what Blake said too. Go to the VA, try to get medical records, fill out the appropriate form for PTSD due to MST, provide all the evidence that you have to support the claim, and file the claim and let the VA process the claim. But again, MST it's a very, I don't want to say touchy, but it's a very sensitive,
Personal.
yeah. And he's got to be open and honest and willing to go through all that. But if you need more help, please email us and we'll be happy to help um, as well by emailing. All right, next one.
Okay, this next one's from Hector Castillo. What if I filed out the paperwork incorrectly? Can we make corrections when filing a claim?
Yes. If you filled anything out and you're trying to communicate with the rater, I would use the VA 214138, which is your statement in support of claim. Now I heard it's updated and you can use the layman form, the VA, what is it, the 10 dash or the 21 10210. But just relay whatever it is you're trying to relay to the rater that way with paper and upload it to Quick Submit. I don't know about calling. Do you think calling Jackie and putting the 0820 as you've mentioned as a notification?
Yeah, sometimes, but I would like to just add real quick. So sometimes if you fill out the wrong form and stuff, that won't preserve your effective date for the date of the thing. So you can fix some things when you're filing a claim, but some stuff you can't, and you have to refile it correctly. It just really depends on what it is. But what Steph said is pretty spot on. Either send in like some documentation or call. You'll get a letter if they can't file your claim. So
Right. But if it's like what Jackie said to her point too, if it's completely the wrong way you filed, and we've seen that too, and that's where you'll see they close right away. They've closed your claim out, and people are like, how do they process it so quickly? Typically, that's because you filed incorrectly, and the VA is going to say, hey, you didn't file this correctly, resubmit. But if it's an error on something small that can be handled without closing the claim, then yeah, I'm a firm believer of always communicating with the rater and as much information as I can give them by way of paper trail.
Okay, this next one's from Richard Strauss. I filed mental health secondary to tinnitus. Is that good?
Come on,
I
Jackie.
guess the mental. Okay, I'll give her a minute to breathe. So, mental health secondary to tinnitus, and then Blake can do medically. God, I don't even know where I want to start. Blake, you want to talk about this medically?
Okay, mental health secondary to tinnitus. Yes, you can become depressed. Yes, you can become anxious if the tinnitus is bad enough. Now, what's going to have to happen is they're going to look back at your medical records and they're going to see how often you've complained of tinnitus and how often you've complained of depression or mental health symptoms. Um, they're going to, that is a claim that I would say is a tough one to prove, unless you have been putting in the work and seeing your provider on a regular basis and talking about it with them so that it's documented. And that's about all I will say about it.
Well, and a lot of times veterans are trying to file, they're trying to file mental health secondary, which is plausible to a chronic disability that is service connected that's causing mental anguish. I think that's somatic symptom disorder or something like the SSD. That can be done. Some of the claims that veterans are trying to file mental health secondary, they're a little far fetched. Um, as far as mental health secondary to tinnitus, I mean, I could see tinnitus drives me batshit crazy. Excuse my French. So I can understand that could cause some issues. I
Yeah,
guess,
but so does Chris.
So true. Bazinga.
but does it. But I mean, Jackie, you want to weigh in on a kind of on
No,
that kind
thank
of?
you.
She's
You
already
can claim
claimed for
whatever
me,
you
so
want. That's
that's
all I
fine.
gotta say.
I've already what?
You've already claimed for me, so that's
They
fine.
can already claim whatever they want. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, mental health secondary tinnitus is going to be a tough one. You would need a really good, strong. I guess first of all, you got to have the mental health diagnosis, and then you're going to have the mental health doctor that states um, that your tinnitus is causing your mental health issues. So you're just going to have to collect a lot of evidence and stuff. I mean, but at the end of the day, like everybody says, you can file for it. It's just you've got to have the support and evidence to support it. What are the thumbs up that keep going up and the flashing boom that keeps coming up?
Chris, that's a question
Oh,
for you.
because
That's
I
when
keep
we're getting.
People are giving you likes. We got 15
because I
thumbs
keep
up.
going yeet, and I look like a yeet.
I don't know how the fireworks are happening. I haven't figured that out
Is
yet.
that when there's a donation?
No, we got like thumbs up and stuff, and
How
I
you
don't know how
people
they're
making it
launching
boom?
fireworks.
Come on, share it. How you doing
What,
it?
Jackie?
I want to see how the boom's happening.
The boom?
How
The
is it
booms,
happening?
right?
I thought
I
she
mean,
said boobs.
that's what I thought too. I'm not doing the fireworks, so someone else is launching them for you.
Big bada boob.
I love it. Whatever y'all, I'm glad we're getting thumbs up. I'm glad we're getting fireworks and we got another donation. Thank
Thumbs up.
you. Thumbs up. Thank you very much, Chris. We appreciate it.
Super Tramp.
This is what's a super Chris the Super Tramp.
Chris Super Tramp.
All right, Ashley, we got a question.
It's an album from the 80s.
Got it.
Super Tramp.
Ah,
Oh, thanks for dating yourself, Blake.
I was gonna say
Appreciate
Blake's
that.
the only one that would have known that.
You're welcome, Jackie.
Chris, can you put that back up? There was a question with it.
I'll take it real quick, Steph. I saw it. So MST claims, because they go to those specialized processors and for initial claims are only going to one that RO. They have been ramping up their hiring and hiring more raters. But unfortunately, due to the sensitive nature and the fact that the people have to pass certifications to rate and evaluate them, unfortunately, those claims do tend to take a little bit
They do.
longer than your normal run of the mill average claims. So just be patient.
But
That also goes for the CMP examiners. They have to have certain certifications.
Yep, I saw
but
that.
but I will say, from when I was rated and probably Ashley was rated, they've come a long ways with regard to the process.
Unfortunately, like, there's still a lot of errors with them and whatnot. So a lot of times people will see it come in and out of status. I know everybody's checking,
Right.
VA.gov like a crackhead, and you'll see, oh God, it went back for another medical opinion and stuff. But that's because VA requires that certain elements be met and that certain things are actually addressed. So when you see that, I know it's frustrating, but try not to be frustrated because somebody's trying to make sure that you get
Yeah.
the fair shake and the best consideration for your claim, especially when it comes to things of a sensitive nature like
Did
MST.
they mention they had their exam already?
They're waiting on the CMP.
Waiting on the exam. Okay, gotcha. Oh, just filed in November. Got it. Got it. Yeah. So, and you will have an exam if I guess if one is if the I guess I always say it like this: if the claim develops for one, because you have to have one for the examiner has to confirm and concede the diagnosis for
For
MST.
MST, you're going to have an examination unless there's objective evidence in the actual file, like somebody filed an unrestricted report, there was a police report, like objective
Right.
evidence, no kidding, substantiates the attack happened. Otherwise, anything based on like markers and credible supporting evidence is going to need
Right.
a qualified examiner, and that's why you're not your every run of the mill medical opinion. You should never pay
Right.
for MST because they're going to send you for examination and medical opinion no matter what. But
Hey, Chris, did you see Gerda touched on a couple things that we were talking about her husband at Walter Reed
Yeah, she had a cyst, I was
in
reading. Or he
Germany?
had a cyst.
She said he
Yeah.
surgery for a cyst on
Yeah, I
his
seen that.
back and feet. He's currently rated for flat feet.
Flat feet. Yes, ma'am.
So I don't yeah. So I'm not sure if that had anything to do with being at the hospital, but I guess he's got some issues. So she
So-
thanked us for the video. So
Let's all say corroborate.
I
what?
can't.
Cooperate.
Don't make fun of me. I have a speech impediment. I was
What
lying.
word?
Corroborate.
I did
Corroborate?
too. I had to go to school for my R's.
Yeah, I had
speech
so
classes.
make fun of my speech impediment, Chris.
So let's watch Big Bang. Where we?
But Jackie, can you get a rating for that?
Not for being stupid. I get to do that on my own.
Okay. We got some stuff to get to.
Mr. B. Foster should be the next one, I think.
Is he?
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. Oh, we got another super chat. Thank you.
Thanks.
And
I
he
think he
also
was
had a
getting tired of waiting, so he decided
Aw.
to donate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for donating. What does it say, Ashley?
Huh?
his question is I have
Oh, I got
some
the questions here.
secondary.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have the
Okay.
questions.
I have some secondary claims I'd like to file for the DSC conditions I was awarded. Can I file an intent to file now if I plan to appeal the conditions just awarded?
What's DSC conditions? Something to discharge? What's
Didn't Service Connect?
S.
I'm
I
not
wonder
sure
if
what
this.
DSC is.
I have some secondary claims I'd like to file for the DSC conditions I was awarded. B. Foster, can you tell us what DSC? I'm kind of stumped. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Chris, go back to what you just showed.
Direct service connection. Okay, yeah, I've never seen that before, but thank you. Now we have
What is it?
direct,
Direct
service,
service
connection.
connection.
Okay, so let's start back over with his whole question. Chris,
Okay.
start all back over with the beginning.
So I filed an intent to file October 25th of 2022 and submitted my claim October 25th of 2023. I
Wow.
just got my decision today and my effective date was 10/25/2023, not 2022. How do I
Uh-huh.
appeal the effective date?
Uh-oh. Well,
Oh,
did you
I
miss?
guess, can I take this one, Steph? So
Well,
service connection is going to be granted dependent on how you file it, if you have an intent to file. But remember, it's generally going to be the date of claim. However, it can also be the date of diagnosis. It can be the date the condition first manifest itself. So if you had your rating decision, it should, if it wasn't supposed to be the date of claim, they should explain why
right.
the effective date was chosen to be it. Otherwise, you can appeal it if you think it's wrong, but just
Right.
know it's not always going to be for if you file initial claim for service connection, it's not going to always be the day to claim. Now, it's often going to be the day to claim, but not always.
I've had
And I
several of mine where I've had to file for the effective date and had to appeal it. I think his problem is he was so close to that 1 year of expiration of that October 22, and he filed it
2 days
305
before.
or 366 days.
yeah,
I
Mhm.
think that is the problem. So I think you potentially have a valid claim to try and get the effective date to October of 2022. And I mean, I guess I would just suggest filing an HLR, right?
I think that would probably be the best, and say
Yeah,
that you're disagreeing with the effective date, because the decision review officers, the DROs, are senior raters, and they should be able to catch the things. But unfortunately, with the effective dates, and I'll make this real quick, there's so many different darn things going on right now with VA. So we have PACT Act, we have like that 4-day grace period, we have
yep,
COVID postmark dates, we have dates of law changes, we have ITFs, we have all this stuff. ITFs change with supplemental claims. So, everybody's human.
yep,
Nobody's perfect. So if you suspect that the effective date's wrong, do what Steph did, or directed. Put the higher level review in, let that senior reviewer go over it, and tell you why the effective date was what
yeah.
it was.
So
and
that
I
answers
will
your
add.
question. Oh, go ahead, Blake. Go ahead.
I'll add to that for everyone else out there. Let this be a cautionary tale. You have 1 year to file. Don't take the whole damn year.
Nope.
File it at least a week before.
Yeah.
You
Or
had
a
it.
couple.
You've had it in your hands. My question for anybody that this has happened to is how long were you holding that claim before you waited to the last day to send it in?
Yeah.
Because most of them will tell you much before. Hey,
Yeah,
Andy.
Hey,
and
Andy.
like, I'll
I,
just piggyback on that real quick too. A lot of people think it's the date of the rate-in decision, but it's actually, you have 1 year from the date of the notification letter that they send that your decision letter's in. So whatever's on your rate-in decision, that's great and fine and good, but you have 1 year from the date of the notification letter. The notification letter is what's in front of your rate-in decision when they mail it to you.
and B. Foster, he also said, by the way, y'all have the best live Q&A sessions. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Just to piggy off that effective date, that's what I suggest, and I think the others agree. File the HLR for the EED, which is the earlier effective date. Explain about the situation of the ITF, and let the HLR process with the effective date. And then I think he's got another question here.
So with the secondary conditions, they can be, as long as you file those within 1 year of granting the service connection for the direct condition, they can be granted as if they were claimed with the direct or the original condition. However, you have to show that you had a diagnosis of that condition, that it existed. Otherwise, it's going to be the date of the diagnosis, the date of claim, or the date that the evidence showed that you actually had that.
I
So
would put the ITF in.
I would say put the ITF in, just to, I like to say CYA, cover your butt,
Right.
but you should be okay. But yeah, always put the ITF in, but
Yep.
just remember, if you're going to file anything else like a new claim or whatever, that ITF will get eaten when you submit claims, unless it's a claim that doesn't take an ITF. So you have to be really methodical with it and be very, um,
Yeah.
you know, thinking about it, and get everything in at the same time. Yeah.
So I hope that answers Mr. Foster. And again, appreciate the donation. Um, oh, we got another one.
Okay.
Did we miss somebody here? See? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, this next one's from California Dave. I seen Stephanie on a different channel. Thank you for your testimony. I joined your Facebook group today. Currently in counseling for PTSD from MST.
Good. That's the first step. Ashley's also an MST survivor, but I know where you saw me. You saw me on another veterans channel, and I did my first ever testimony for MST. So I'm
Well, that's
glad.
good. That's
I'm
getting
glad
out
you're
there.
here. Huh?
We've heard a lot more about MST lately, so that's good that it's getting out there. That people are
Today was
talking about it.
MST. Today is MST Day for sure.
Right.
But hey, we're glad you joined the Facebook group. There's a lot of valuable information, just like this live. We have a lot of Facebook. If you need to email us privately as well, California, you can certainly email us, and we can talk more in depth about that as well. Um, and Chris, did we miss CRTW 08 about his MST question?
Thought we
I don't
saw
know.
that one.
I don't know who's typing, but it's right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's right below. By the way, you all have the best live Q&A sessions.
What's it say?
Thank you, and yes, I would like to speak with you.
Yeah, I told him to email us.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Moving on. What do we got? Hector?
Do we have anything else?
I don't see
Yeah.
anything.
Do we have Hector?
Question.
I have no idea what I was doing when violin filing. Okay, so PTS, all right. Are we through?
I just saw a
Looks like
couple
it.
questions come through.
I thought I saw some more come through too.
Peggy's
Peggy.
asking about Desert Storm Connected, but I'm not sure if she's.
Maybe she's
So-
thinking of the PACT Act because it's liberalizing law. They potentially could go back 1 year. There's a lot of laws like that.
Right.
But
She says that
Yeah.
the ITF locked in the effective date.
Well,
it can, but you
It
have
can.
to have diagnosis. And I mean, there's so many factors. We could talk about effective dates all freaking night and still not touch everything. The general
Right.
rule of thumb is yes, it does, but sometimes there's also other things that will allow for service connection. If you don't have a diagnosis, maybe later service connection or whatnot, without access to the claims file, it's so hard to tell. But,
right.
general rule of thumb is if you're even thinking about claiming something, throw an ITF in. Because even
Yes.
if you don't use it, at least it's there if you want to.
And remember, you can only have one ITF at a time. So I had this
Yeah.
question in the group today. Only one at a time. So use the ITF to the best of its ability and then submit under it. And if you think you could have other stuff later, put another ITF right after it and let that sit there for the year. And
Right. So if you put an ITF today and you put an ITF in 6 months from now and you're like, oh, I have a year from that
Yeah.
6 month mark, no, you're wrong. You haven't a year from the date of the first ITF because you can only have one ITF pending at once. So they don't piggyback on each other. So you have 1 year from that first ITF. So keep that in mind too. And not
Right.
all, you said earlier, not all claims will allow an ITF to preserve that effective date for you. Higher level reviews and board appeals do not accept them.
Yeah.
So, guys, we
Awesome.
flashed up a bunch of times the email. If you do send us anything, please redact your personal information. All right. We don't need your social security numbers and date of birth and stuff floating around. We don't want that. We want to help you, but we don't want all the information. So
Right.
please redact everything before you send it.
And remember,
I don't see any more questions. We had a lot of people on. We got 16 thumbs up. We got 4 donations, which is awesome. Thank you very much, guys. We very much appreciate that.
Great.
And
remember, join the Face group if you haven't joined it, guys. Jump on there. We're up to 45,000 members in there. Everybody helps each other in there. We'll probably do our next, let's see, I think if everybody's good, we'll do our next live in, I guess a couple weeks here, maybe on the 6th of March. I'll check with the gang and see, because like I said, this is all dependent on everybody being able to come here on their own free will and help out. And that's what we're all here about. Sorry I blew up earlier, but
What, you told me I had to be here.
well, Blake, you have to be here. Everyone else, it's optional.
No, we're not here to be mistreated. We're here to help everybody. We get to everybody every time.
every
Or
time.
we have them email us. There's no reason for somebody to be throwing a temper tantrum
No.
in the chat.
No.
Chris, we
And
got
then-
one more question.
Yeah, we got another
Oh, we
question here
do?
from Devin.
Okay. All right. What is it?
Okay, this next one's from Devin Duncan. On my problem list through the VA, I don't have any diagnosis. I'm 90% service connected with none of those diagnoses on my file. Do I talk to my provider about that?
No.
Long
you
story
can't.
short, yes.
But you already have them. So, not everybody sees VA. A lot of people see
Right.
private providers. A lot of people see community care. Would it be best if you had your health record up to date as possible? Obviously, yes. But no, I mean, are you required? No, because independent evidence allowed them to grant you service connection. You can be granted service connection for stuff not in your VA files.
He
It
could have
happens
been
all.
granted service connection getting out of the military and got 90% and went off on this merry,
Exactly.
right, and is
But
seeing civilian doctors. We don't know.
but I will give you a provider standpoint on that. You're out and you've got these issues and you're being treated in the civilian world, but you want the VA to pay for your meds. So now you take those prescriptions to your VA provider and say, "Here, can you write these for me for the that they're going to look at those prescriptions and they're going to go, "What are these for? I don't have anything in your problem list to match any of these diagnoses in your problem list."
Actually, believe it or not, Blake, that's really I from my personal experience, that's not an issue because I see an outside GI doctor and I've been able to get all my prescriptions filled with no problem.
But are
Um,
any of those are any of those things on your VA and your GI is not sending your records to the VA?
I mean, they could or they couldn't. Who knows? It's like community care, so it's a
Right.
crapshoot.
Well,
I'm
if
just
it's
saying.
going through community care, they're supposed to be sending the records back.
They're supposed to, but oftentimes they're in a secondary program that doesn't always get uploaded into the e-folders. So what I'm saying is that you don't I get what you're saying from a provider standpoint, but they'll still, as long as you have a prescription from a provider on the outside, as long as the contact information for the doctor's on there so they can contact the office and verify everything, the VA will prescribe it as long as it's on the formulary.
So I guess
well,
here's
they
my
also
here's
want a diagnosis on the
here's my
prescription.
thought process, Devin.
But why
It
would you be
sounds
going
like
to
Devin's
them
trying to go to the VA. So, and he has nothing on his problem list, but he's 90% rated. So, if Devin, and this is just, I'm just thinking outside the box here. If you're rated 90%, you obviously got rated coming out of the military. And then you must have gone civilian. If you're trying to now go to the VA, oh, he says, I'm like on, what does that say?
4 different
Ashley?
meds.
I'm
Sorry, I
on
didn't
like
know I was
4 different
muted.
meds for my migraines, and none of them are working. I got denied for my headaches because they don't see an actual diagnosis for it. Okay, so that's something completely different. So you're trying to get migraines, it's not on your problem list or diagnosed for it, but you're 90%. So there's a lot of missing pieces here.
Right. And VA examiners are not afraid to diagnose
Yeah.
headaches, migraines variants, tension headaches, whatever it may be. They're definitely not afraid to. So there's a disconnect there. And if you're getting treatment for it, really, Blake, I mean, if you're getting treatment you get 4 different medications for a headache. I mean, what do you think as a provider? Do you think they might have a diagnosable headache condition?
Right. How would he get medication without a diagnosis?
Right. Well, he's getting it from outside, probably.
That's what I think the disconnect is here.
And the VA problem list, at least when I worked at the VA, it wasn't an electronic system, but we were supposed to update anything we gave. If we gave you a medicine for a stubbed toe, then we were supposed to put that on the problem list.
Right,
Right.
but
And
I
if you
don't think
pull
he's
the
being
blue,
seen at the VA. I think he's being seen in the civilian world.
But if you pull the blue button reports, it will say what your problem list is and stuff. But when VA pulls the records from VHA, they don't, a lot of the newer records don't even bother listing the problem list. You have to go into separate sections and it's all crazy and
When
stuff.
when I went into the VA for the first time 3 years ago, as a patient, there was nothing on my problem list. I had to sit down. They asked me what my medical history was, and I gave it to them, and those things went on my problem list.
But in his blue button medical records, there has to be medical records from the doctor that gave him the medication for the
If they're
migraine.
if they're VA physician, they
He
should
says
be.
I'm getting it from the VA. I don't understand it either.
They
So
could also, because there's so many different types of headaches and migraines, they could also be working him up, trying to see what works to determine what type of headache he has and
Well,
maybe
and
switch to
he
it.
says he got denied for headaches because they don't see it an actual diagnosis for it.
right.
Well, he needs to, again,
You need to appeal
going
that.
back,
Here we go.
migraines and headaches
Right.
essentially are the same thing, but they have different diagnoses. So
Let's do this.
if you're
Yeah. Chris just put it there. Devin, send us your denial on your headaches or migraines, whatever it was. Send us the decision redacting your personal information. Let us first just look at the denial from the VA so Jackie, myself, Blake, and Ashley can get a better understanding. So send that to us so that we can understand and go from there and maybe give you a little bit more guidance. Okay, he said yes, he will. Awesome. That way we'll do that. And Daniel said, just FYI, that there's a group of 3 queens and 2 jokers in here. The queens.
Wow. Thanks. So is it you?
I mean, I wouldn't call Blake a queen, but I mean,
I
whatever.
was calling him a queen.
you don't know me well enough, Chris.
Hey.
All right,
So-
B. Foster's got another question, so let's get to that before we get off topic here.
Well, and Peggy said she thought it was Desert Storm connected, but Peggy, we figured it out. It was direct service connected for the other person that asked their question. But okay, what's up for B. Foster?
Okay. So, B. Foster, I was awarded 30% for migraines, but my personal statement, migraine log, etc., show I get migraines 2 times per month. This was in evidence I submitted. Should I file a higher level review for a higher rating?
Jackie?
Yeah, that would be a good basis to do it. So please note that the veteran is competent to explain symptoms and onset and all that stuff. But you know, medical records sometimes have contradictory stuff in it. So sometimes clarification or reconciliation is warranted. So because even if you write a headache log, if there's not like objective evidence supporting it, it may not always be accepted, but it's always considered. If you submit a headache log, it will always be considered. But there can't be contradictory evidence that refutes the validity of the headache log. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, again, very situational, very based on the veteran, and impossible to speculate on without the medical records. It's just food for thought.
And B. Foster, just keep in mind people are human. I mean, there's many times. I mean, if the VA got it right every time, there wouldn't be jobs for all these other accredited, attorneys, agents. People are human. We all make mistakes. Every single one of us, including us as veterans, when we file our claims, we make mistakes. So it's quite possible, yes. So what Jackie said, file the HLR. Remember, you can't provide new evidence, but just provide your argument as to why maybe this was overlooked. Like, hey, the evidence was submitted. Would you please relook at this and reconsider, the rating? Now, if the HLR doesn't find any duty to assist errors and it confirms it, then you would need to go on and try to prove on the supplemental or an increase down the road. But I mean, I would go the same route. I'd go the HLR route.
I mean, obviously, it's better to have the evidence there when they're evaluating you because it's there and it's of record, and you can dispute the evaluation based on what's already of record.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, is that it?
Well, yeah, looks like that's it. So that's a pretty good night. We made it an hour and a half.
We started right off. We didn't even have to sit around and BS.
Right. So again, next time we're going to keep trying the Facebook workaround until we can get it to work. They're not playing nice with us anymore.
No.
So unfortunately that's with Ecamm, StreamYard, everything. They're just blocking all that out. So we're going to keep trying because we want to get everybody that we can. We want to reach out to as many people as we can. So we'll keep working on it. But we thank everybody for showing up. Our team again, Blake,
Hey, Andy.
Jackie, Ashley, Andy.
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 I see you, Andy.
They see you.
I only see you. Yes, and we'll try and do one in a couple weeks as well.
Yep. So if there's no more questions, guys, we want to wish everyone a good night. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Yes. Bye, guys. Thanks again,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.